I've this entitled my talk tonight as Fond Memories of Places and People in Brooklyn. First, I'd like to say if you have any questions to ask or additional information to express, or you can't hear me, please raise your hand and I shall be glad to acknowledge your request. First, places. In the year 1916, when I was born, Brooklyn enjoyed being a boomtown. There were 2 sardine factories. Alton Farnsworth owned one in on the current side of the Brooklyn Boatyard. Alanson Mayo owned one on Nesca. Henry Kane owned a clam factory in the cove at Center Harbor. Also, the Porter job, as it was called, the building in the residence currently occupied by the wooden boat, was under construction. Mr. Porter built the place as a summer vacation home for him and his family, who became friendly with and well liked by the natives for several years. His daughters joined the local Campfire Girls. After the Porters died or had financial difficulty, for some years the place was unoccupied until Kenneth and Margaret Park bought it for a year-round residence. The Wooden Boat School also purchased the Mountain Ash Inn, decided to expand, and they purchased the Porter property, as it was called, from the family of Kenneth and Margaret Parsons. Now to go back to 1916, there were 3 grocery stores: Roy and Lena Bowden's store at Nascaig Point, Frank Gott's store at the Brooklyn corner, and Alfred and Hattie Joyce's store was located where G.G. Scarsfield's studio is now located. The Joyces bought their store from John and Neva Bridges. John Bridges died, and Neva decided to board transients, who were mostly select salesmen who came to town to take orders for the goods that were in their warehouses in Rockland. Their goods came to Brooklyn via the daily steamboat. The Joyce's store burned a few years later, and they reopened a store in the Oddfellows Hall, downstairs and on the left in the Oddfellows Hall. That store was called Joyce and Flies, as their son-in-law joined and became a partner in the store. Next door, Annie Dollard opened a variety store. Her merchandise consisted of some dry goods, fancy dishes, candy, and very often gift suggestions for holidays and things like that. There was a Grange store, now the Nascaig Gallery at Brooklyn Corner, which was a farm organization store who sold farm products such as grain and seed. A few years later, the Grange store was purchased by Will and Mabel Cousins, who had a combination grocery on one side and dry goods on the other side. Also at the corner, there was a church, a hearse house, just large enough to hold a horse-drawn carriage. Beside the church, a small one-room town hall, a post office beside the town hall, a barber shop where the Morning Moon is today, and the Friend Memorial Library. How fortunate we were to have the Friend Memorial Library, 3 brothers, Robert, Victor, and Leslie Friend, who were Brooklyn residents, wished to market canned beans and brown bread. They needed a larger place that was more accessible for transportation than Brooklyn to start their business. They moved to Melrose, Massachusetts, where they built their factory. They were very successful, and they wanted to remember Brooklyn, where they enjoyed their childhood. After several years, B&M bought the Friend brothers' business. Annie Dollard was the librarian for years, and the library was open only on Saturday.
Wow.
One day. There were also 2 large buildings in town. One was the old Oddfellows Hall at the intersection of Reach Road and the road to Center Harbor, and the other, the Masonic Hall, where Bowden Hall is now located. At another part of town, Aunt Belle Bridges had a dry goods store, which was located in the front room of her house on the hill beyond Center Harbor. As soon as I was old enough to do errands for my mother, I loved to go to Aunt Belle's. On the right side of the large glass case that held a delicious assortment of penny candy. One of my favorites was called baked beans.
Oh, yeah.
They were sold by the small brown tub, and a whole tubful for $1. That was my favorite purchase. Since there were no automobiles in 1916, Rodney Smith, the grandfather of Bob, was the owner of the transportation means for the town. Rodney had a horse and wagon for hire. He specialized in having the fastest horse and the most comfortable carriage around. Rodney Smith lived across the street from where Ben Emery lives, and which was formerly called the Farnsworth House, where Mr. Farnsworth lived, who owned the sardine factory. There was a story passed around about Rodney's fast horse. A man named Irving Candidge, who lived in Sedgwick, traded in horses and cows for sale. Irving had traded a horse to Rodney, and Rodney was not pleased with the horse. He called up Irving and told him that he was not happy with the horse. The horse was too slow. In fact, the horse was slower than hell. Irving's reply was, I knew he was slow, but I didn't know how slow. I'll be down tomorrow with another horse.